Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Why Not Travel. And once again, this is Robert. We're currently in the port of Ensenada, Mexico, and as you can see, the crew members are performing the safety drill on the ship. I don't really know why, but Ensenada, Mexico really does seem like the place that all the cruise ships on the west coast perform their safety drills, and they will sound the alarms on the ship and be on the intercom almost all day long, making announcements for the crew members to conduct their emergency drills. Now, the passengers can ignore all this because it's only for the crew members, but it makes a good reason to actually get off the ship. So we started our day in the main dining room for breakfast. The reason why is we were kind of getting sick of buffet style breakfast on the cruise. The buffet is good, but after a while you just want something different, and the dining room actually does serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and all the meals are fantastic. So we all agreed that this time around we would have breakfast in the dining room. So we were talking about Ensenada and what we were going to actually do. We didn't have any shore excursions booked or planned, and we just decided to wing it. Majority of us have been here multiple times and we know the city, and so we just decided, yeah, we'll walk into town, do some shopping, and go from there. We were also talking about a rumor that was spreading around the ship that actually there was someone very special on board. That person was actually Jack Nicholson. I ran into multiple passengers throughout the cruise saying that he was on board, and some of them even showed me on pictures of him on board, but yet I personally didn't see him on the ship, so I didn't know how true it was. And so we were just sitting there talking about it, saying, wouldn't that be cool if he really is on the ship? And we were just kind of joking around about this. And then out of suddenly, my sister said, that's Jack Nicholson. He's right there behind us. We all looked at each other and didn't know how to react. And so we were trying not to be awkward, but we all, one by one, started to turn around and glance over that way to see if it was really him. And we all came down to the conclusion that it was him, and we couldn't believe he was on the ship. I know it doesn't look like him on camera, but I can promise you that is him. After breakfast, we head down to the gangway to get off the ship. Now, I want to take a moment to talk about Ensenada, Mexico. Ensenada, I actually nicknamed the free port of the West Coast. And if you sail out of Florida a lot and head to the Bahamas, then you would know exactly what I mean. It's the closest foreign port to the States, so if you're going on a West Coast cruise, the ship is going to stop in Ensenada. Even if you go to Hawaii, the ship will head to Ensenada before it heads back to the States, and that is because of the laws in the United States that any foreign vessel must visit a foreign port before returning to the United States. So Ensenada being so close makes it the perfect stop to do for a cruise ship, because they can provide a cruise and don't have to sail far to visit a foreign port. Now, the funny thing is about this is a lot of Californians have actually drove down to Tijuana and have gone a little farther to go to Ensenada, Mexico. And that's why a lot of Californians end up staying on the ship. So the most common question I get about Ensenada, Mexico, especially when I tell people I'm not getting off the ship, is it because it's unsafe? The answer is it is perfectly safe, and it is actually a pretty cool city to visit and see if you have never been there. So a couple of the things about Ensenada, Mexico that I do think everyone should see and do while they're here is that Ensenada, and I just found this out just recently actually, is also known as the Napa Valley of Mexico. There is actually a bunch of breweries and wineries in the area that you could go see and tour. Also, due to that fact, a lot of Mexicans actually vacation in Ensenada. because it is also very cheap here compared to the other resort towns in Mexico like Puerto Vallarta and Cabo. Another fun fact is Ensenada is home to the fish taco. Yes, that is correct. They invented the fish taco, and a lot of people say it's a must-do in Ensenada is to head down to the fish market and get a fish taco. Now, with all that said, like I already mentioned, my family decided to just wing it this day and just walk around Ensenada and maybe do some shopping and whatnot. You can find vendors on the street that will approach you and try to sell you things, but they're also very friendly and understanding. If you just tell them no, they will understand and back off. This area is a very tourist area. There's Popeyes and beer and restaurants and whatnot. And the locals know this, that it's the tourist area town. And just be a little careful about prices in this area, because in all reality, there is a price for locals and then there's a price for tourists. Now, this is Mexico, so you could haggle and bargain and negotiate all prices, but just know they are trying to make a living, and there is, for example, in the restaurants, 2 sets of menus, one menu for the locals and one menu for the tourists, and the prices are completely different. And you just have to understand, this is Mexico. This is how they make their living and their livelihoods. And so even though I do a barter with them to try to get the best deal as possible, I also cut them some slack because I know this is how they make their living. After we did our shopping, we actually headed back down to the fish market area, and I actually ran into a monument that I have actually never seen before, and it caught my attention, so I ran over there. It turned out to be a monument to all the lost fishermen that were lost at sea, based in Ensenada, Mexico. Like I said, Ensenada was founded on fishing, and they made the fish taco. So this monument was actually quite moving and whatnot. It really showed the story of what a fisherman's life is, from them trying to catch the catch of a lifetime to what appeared to be scuba divers evaluating the wreck of the lost ship. Also on the very top, and I apologize, I know I really didn't get footage of this, is a woman and a daughter looking out to sea, and this is supposed to represent the wives looking out to see if their loved ones were returning back home. We decided to head back to the ship after seeing the monument, and I just want to point out one thing, is this area is the Fisherman's Wharf of Ensenada, and you will see a lot of locals and also vendors selling fish, and there is seafood restaurants along this area as well. Now what's nice is the path that we're on actually leads right back to the ship. Ensenada is actually very easy to get around, and it is actually a very hard city to get lost in, because the tourist area in the Fisherman's Wharf is basically on 2 streets. And as long as you're on those 2 streets, it is very easy to make your way back to the ship, especially on the path we're currently on, because like I said, it leads you right back to the ship. Now this path I don't think has a technical name at the moment. However, in the future, I can definitely see this being called the Malecón, because most tourist cities in Mexico have a Malecón, which is basically a path along the oceanfront that goes through all the tourist areas of the city. But Ensenada isn't quite built up yet, and so it's not quite there, but I can definitely tell this is the direction they're heading in. Once back on the ship, we cleaned ourselves up and headed to the main dining room. We were actually having dinner during the sailaway, so I actually didn't get any footage of the sailaway. However, I just want to take a moment to talk about this dining room because it's absolutely breathtaking, and I didn't cover it in any of the other vlogs I have done of this cruise. The one thing that will stand out to me about this cruise is the main dining room and the food served here. It was absolutely fabulous. I didn't have a single meal on this ship that I regretted. So I can guarantee if you are going on the Navigator of the Seas, you're in for a real treat when you head to the main dining room. And just like that, the cruise was over. That is one thing I don't like about these 3 and 4 day cruises, is the second you start getting into the groove, it's over. However, the adventure is not over yet. We're actually heading over to the Carnival Radiance for a weekend getaway cruise. So if you want to follow that, like and subscribe, and I leave you with this: why not travel?